when I was younger, my family didn't really discuss race with me and my brother, so I have one sibling. And I wouldn't say that the topic was avoided in any way. I wouldn't say that. But I would say that it just wasn't an important thing for us really to discuss. And pretty much the times when we really started discussing it was more when, if anything in particular had happened with me and my brother. And generally, I don't really think my brother really ever thought about race too much. He was always more sociable than me, I would say, and had lots of different friends in different groups. But I would say that I myself, if I ever had some type of incident at school or at church with any friends, and I would speak to my parents, they were always open to speak with me about it. But I never felt shut out from my family, from either side of my family. I always felt accepted, I always felt loved. I think that one of the people that I always did kind of feel a little bit shut out was my mother from certain members of my dad's family, because she was not black, and she did look white, even though she's not culturally, she's not from this country. She's a Chilean person from Chile, obviously. But I think that some members of my dad's family always kind of received her as an outsider. But I think me and my brother were considered by my family to be black.
My grandparents and my entire extended family on my mom's side live in Georgia, and my mom, my brother, and I grew up in Minneapolis. And my mom was always angry around holiday times and birthday times because my grandparents never sent us gifts, but they sent the rest of the grandkids gifts, and my mom was certain that it's because we were mixed, and that because my mom had run away at 17 with a black man. And she always said that, we've been treated differently because we were mixed, and that they've never accepted us. And so we were always kind of aware. And I don't think my brother and I ever really cared that we did not get gifts from our grandparents, because we lived so far away from them and did not grow up with them. But our mom made such an issue out of it that we began to feel like it was a really big deal and a really big issue of discontent within our family. So in that respect, we were treated differently.
Probably within our family, race is, I don't know, it's not taboo at all, really. So I don't know, I guess race is explicitly spoke about a lot, especially in terms of being biracial. There's a lot of interracial couples, and I don't know, I guess I have a lot of biracial relatives. So it pretty much, as far back as I can remember, we spoke about race.
Race was dealt with all the time. My mom taught me at a young age that because I was black, I was going to be dealing with different situations than a white person. She taught me from a young age that you may get pulled over just because you are black, and that if you're speeding and the car next to you is speeding but they're white, he's going to pull you over just because you're black. Or that if I'm dealing in a situation, they might have more prejudice against me because of the fact that I was black. And I was taught that at elementary school. So, I assume my brother was taught the same way. But other than that, she just taught me the rules of life, and basically that as much as society says there's no racial issues and no racism, there is, and that there always will be.
The only thing that I've ever been made fun of in my family about was the way I talk. When I go to Hawaii, my family there makes fun of the way I talk because I don't talk like they talk over there. I speak more proper English than they do, but nothing other than that.
I do have some friends that are not biracial, it's of another race, and I don't think we discuss race a lot either with one another. Like if we do, it's not like anything derogatory. It's just kind of like they want to understand more about like my race, to ask like some questions pertaining to that. It's more.
I do have friends of different cultures, albeit all white or all black. Race is something that we talk about, I wouldn't say all the time, but some of the times, because people wonder like, okay, how come you do this but you don't do that? Or like my white friends are always curious about my hair and how come I don't wash it every day like they do, or how come, you know, I have these tendencies and those tendencies. But it's just something you have to adapt to and change to. I mean, one of the main things that like I always got teased about was I'm half white but I don't eat mayonnaise, and I'm half black and I don't eat hot sauce. Like, what's the deal? That was one joke that I always heard all the time. So.
Yeah, I have, I guess, probably the majority of my friends aren't biracial. And yeah, again, like with them, I'll intentionally bring up the subject just because it's a subject that I like to talk about, I guess. Sometimes, I guess, people have thought, like, I don't know, I just had a discussion recently with a friend of mine when we were talking about the organization I'm trying to start, and she was saying how she doesn't feel there is a separate race for, like, biracial people aren't a separate race. They're black and white, or Hispanic and white, whatever combination, I guess, of races they are.
The majority of my friends throughout my life have been predominantly white, and they've asked me before about my background and my race, but I think they kind of ignore it. And when I ask some of them what they see me as, they say just like us, so I really don't think they see me as like my Asian half, so.
Yes, I have had friends that were not biracial, and mostly starting in middle school and above, we started talking about race, especially when I moved, and that's when I moved to Georgia. My grandfather got sick, so my mom and I moved down there to live close to him before he passed away, and so I moved to a smaller southern town, and there weren't a lot of biracial people there, and I identified myself as multiracial, and I look white, so people question that. And so we always talked about race, and they're, you know, how are you biracial? You don't look biracial. And so we'd talk about, you know, how, you know, you can come out looking one way, but that doesn't really change who your parents are and how your identity is. And I also got, I got the feeling of kind of being an alien outsider, like, with them, because not maybe with my friends, but with some just random classmates, because a lot of them didn't believe me. They just were like, she's lying. She just thinks it's a cool thing to say she's biracial, so she's just making it up, because they just completely thought I was fabricating the story about having parents of two different races.
Growing up, they were biracial. Other kids who I hung out with were biracial. Really didn't talk about race until much later on. Probably going into college, and then identifying with other people, and you're like, oh, whatever they're mixed with, putting that on the table and being able to relate. So I wouldn't say while I was younger, not so much, but once I got to college, it was something we talked about more.
I did in high school. I had a good friend who was mixed too, and we both would complain about stuff like being caught in the middle. And then also I had one of my ex-boyfriends was biracial. We talked about that a lot. Just how different people perceive you, and it helped me a lot to have somebody to talk about that with.